Welcome to AstroTrax with Infinity Astrology. I'm Nick.
And I'm Daniel, and this is the Taurus new moon video.
But what is a new moon? What are we even talking about here? A new moon signifies a time where we're planting seeds. It's a time that we begin a process.
Right, and this new moon is the beginning of a new cycle of making sustainable choices. Taurus is a fixed earth sign, and all the fixed signs deal with lasting and sustaining projects and ideas. So in Earth, we're dealing with sustaining our physical resources as well as our personal value systems.
And now, Taurus, that's a sign that's ruled by the planet Venus. And currently Venus is in the sign of Cancer. Now, so Venus would be the planetary ruler of the new moon. And what that means is it gives a little bit of extra flavor to the definitions prescribed by the new moon placement. So Venus is the planet of relationships, and Cancer is the sign of the feelings. So this month, what we're dealing with, we're talking about issues where we're looking around and engaging the values of our emotional relationships in the situations. Like, is this person, is this situation conducive for my growth, or does it hold me back? These are the questions and the choices that we're going to kind of go over this month. So before we get into the new moon, let's set some background information. Let's kind of set the backdrop up so we know kind of the context that we're dealing with. In astrology, it's all about context, context, context. And so we have what's called a learning triangle aspect pattern between the planet of power, Pluto, and the ambitious sign of Capricorn, the change agent, Uranus, in the sign of the impulsive sign of Aries, and the expansive and the exaggerative planet Jupiter in the creative and self-expressive sign of Leo.
Right, so Uranus in Aries represents this need for the individual to be free and able to make independent decisions, but is in conflict with Pluto and Capricorn, representing these systems of power and control, societal or personal in nature, like the way we limit ourselves and our freedom to act.
So with this Uranus square Pluto that Daniel's describing, we have this Jupiter in Leo. It adds itself into the mix, and what that does is it says, in light of all these seismic changes and all these things, these personal revolutions that we've gone to that have shifted the power for us, how do we express that into society? Like how do we live in our heart's desire? That's what that's the intention, that's the goal here, and that's what we're learning to try to do is figure out how to be ourselves in light of all these changes. So Saturn is also retrograde during this month, and what that implies is an internal focus to the challenges and the restrictions and limitations posed by Saturn and Sagittarius. So like we talked about earlier, we're dealing with these emotional values and like, are these relationships good or not? And how we're able to determine that is through our worldview and through what we believe, and so what we're doing this month is we're questioning, what do I believe? Do my beliefs, do they help serve my value system, or are they in some kind of like cross purposes where they're working against each other? So we're going to be exploring options, and which kind of is a good segue into Mars is in Gemini, and it's opposite Saturn also. Mars in Gemini is involved with this new moon, and and that Mars in Gemini, that's all about choices and options. So we're going to be like looking around at the landscape in the field and saying, hey, we got a lot of choices here, and we gotta see which ones are like, should we get involved with, which ones shouldn't we get involved with, so.
Right, and this Taurus new moon wants to take it slow and sift through all the rubbish slowly and methodically, so we can find the course of action that is most suitable and most attractive and most sustainable.
Right, and so now, and another interesting element to this whole mix is that the day after the new moon, so tomorrow, there's Mercury goes retrograde in the sign of Gemini. And if you know anything about astrology, you certainly have heard about Mercury retrograde. And it's one of the it's famous, right? So what a big component of Mercury retrograde is review and going over things again, you know. So, and Mercury was going to be in the sign of Gemini, so again, we're dealing with choices. And Mercury is the mental processes, so we're going to be thinking about our choices. Now, it's retrograde action. That's going to make us kind of review our options, review our choices, you know. Kind of everything in context here that we've been talking about. It's like we've made some pretty big changes recently, and we're trying to figure out how to work it in. But, you know, now there's all these different avenues that we can kind of go down with this new courage and confidence that we have. And it's like, you know, which responsibilities are we going to feel comfortable kind of taking on, you know?
To piggyback on what Nick said about the responsibilities that we choose to take on, Mars opposite Saturn in Gemini Sagittarius wants to take on responsibilities that aren't exactly too serious, but you know, it still keeps life light and fun and enjoyable. You know, so we don't feel so bogged down by the restrictions and burdens that we all have to deal with. So we're almost forced to find new avenues to express ourselves that make us feel more light. And
so, in conclusion, as a way to put a nice bow on this whole package, you know, to really kind of put this new moon into general terms here, this is a month of options and exploring those options, and you know, and using you know, that exploration as a way to kind of gather facts. You know, this isn't the time to make decisions. You know, not at all. Mercury's retrograde, Saturn's retrograde. I mean, this is, you know, you're not making any. There's no final answers here. You know, what we're dealing with is, you know, just gathering that information, see where each road, you know, what kind of responsibilities you think that you're going to have to assume and take on, and you know, whether or not that you're comfortable with them. So, you know, so with that, move through this month and know that, you know, this is all about just checking it out. Just check it out. You know. So, if you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more about astrology, contact us at our social media, facebook.com/infinityastrology, and learn how this new moon applies to you. This is AstroTrax.